Hi there. Today you're going to learn how to use Vim. So what is Vim? Vim is a text editor, and what that means is it will edit any kind of text file, given that it is not encoded. That includes stuff like a Word document or a Pages document. Otherwise, anything from plain text files to Markdown, HTML, CSS, Ruby, Python, C, Objective-C, Lisp, Clojure, etc. There's too many to count. And if you're a programmer, you probably know coming into Vim what will and won't work. And so I'm not going to go over all of them. But let's start with how to use Vim. So the first thing you can do is you could just type Vim and press enter. You could jump into this is a fresh installation of Vim. And if you came to this point, you probably would have no idea what to do. And that's fine, because this is Vim it has a bit of a learning curve, and that learning curve is really explained well. It's handled very well by the Vim Tutor. And if you have Vim installed, and I'll put some installation links in the description, but I'm going to assume you have Vim installed. That also means that you have the Vim Tutor installed as well. It comes with Vim. And the Vim Tutor is a 30-minute tutorial that's going to basically teach you basic navigation and files, a couple commands. In fact, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is kind of weaves through the Vim Tutor and around it and covers some stuff that the Vim Tutor doesn't. In the same way, the Vim Tutor will cover some things that I don't cover. But I'm going to suggest that as kind of the canonical resource, and then I'm going to kind of jump in anyway and explain a couple things that I like and some recommendations on how to make it your editor, how to make it really awesome. So I'm going to assume that you do the Vim Tutor, and I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you should be done with that. And it's worth mentioning that if it doesn't make sense to you on the first time, that's fine. It took me like 2 or 3 times over the course of 2 days to kind of understand what was going on. And that happens, and that's fine. No one expects you to fully understand it on day one, though if you do, that's great. And that works out well for you, but that didn't work for me. So anyway, do the Vim Tutor, and we will come back in just a minute. Okay, so you've completed the Vim Tutor, and now we're going to do some basic Vim stuff. The first of which is editing a file. There's 2 ways to do this. I prefer the faster way that I'm going to teach you now, because in reality, you're probably not going to be using the other way, which is opening Vim by itself and then choosing a file from inside of Vim. You're probably going to be starting knowing which file you want to open. And so if you're familiar with command line stuff, you probably know how that works. Vim and then space and then the file name. So in this case, helloworld.rb. And if you're not super familiar with command line stuff, again, tab in that instance auto completed from HEL to helloworld.rb. So press enter, and this is a really small Ruby script that just puts hello world out to the screen when you run it. So you can see at the top obviously is the code itself, and the tildes that go all the way to the bottom are just extra space, indicates that there's nothing on those lines. And then at the bottom, the file name and some line and character information. So how do we move around Vim? Well, if you did the Vim Tutor, you probably already know this, but just in case you did not watch or did not do the Vim Tutor, I'm sure there's probably a couple of you, I will tell you anyway. L is right, K is down, K is up, wow, J is down, and H is left. So we have H, J, K, L. So if we start from, let's say, the center, H, J, K, L. Perfect. And that is how you're going to navigate in Vim pretty much all the time. It's worth mentioning that if you are in a default Vim installation, the arrow keys do work. I'm using them right now, but I don't recommend them. And you're going to hear that when you start Vim is use HJKL. Your fingers will thank you later as you stay in the home row pretty much all the time. And it's really handy, and that's the reason that they are set that way. And if you do more command line stuff, if you use tmux or anything like that, you will benefit from Vim style bindings, as they're called, the key bindings. So I encourage you to learn that from the get-go because it will be useful to you later. Now, if we started typing right now, if we wanted to, for instance, put another line, so we wanted to type another puts and a string, that would not work. And the reason for that is that we are right now in normal mode. So Vim has a concept of modes, and the normal mode that most people are used to in their text editor is insert mode in Vim. And what that means is when you type A appears. In Vim, by default, you start in normal mode. So when you type A, whatever the action for A is initiated instead. So how do we get into insert mode? Well, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go inside the string. So I have a good example. And we're going to press I for insert mode. And you'll notice right now that nothing on the screen is actually changed. And that's something that I'm not too fond of in Vim. And that's something that I have changed in my Vim installation that I'll show you later. And then I'll obviously link the instructions to do that kind of thing in the description. But now we are in insert mode, and you can find this out by, well, starting to type. So I will add some text, and you'll see that it showed up. And so now if we wanted to get back out of insert mode, we'll press escape. You'll see it jumps back a character, which means that it is back in the mode. See, I'm using H and L, so that worked pretty well. And now, we've made a line, and we know normal and insert mode, and a couple other things that are handy, and some things that I really like about Vim in terms of text manipulation. O makes a new line and then puts in insert mode, so we can just start typing. And then press escape again to go back into normal mode, and we can navigate once again. One that I really like is capital O, which does the same thing but puts a line above. I do this a lot with debugging and stuff like that. I don't know. Sure. Escape back into normal mode, and now we have a file that we want to save. Well, how do we save a file? That requires the third mode, command mode. I think that's what it's called. That's what I call it. Honestly, I haven't read through a lot of the Vim documentation. It's been kind of figured out as you go. I think that's worked out well for me, but I digress. How do we get into command mode? Well, we use the colon key, and you'll see when I type colon, at the bottom, this kind of prompt shows up for us to type something. So in this instance, we have two options. We can write using W, or we can write using the full word write. But what I'm going to teach you, and so that's worth mentioning, by the way, if you press colon W and then enter, it will write the file. But in this case, we're going to go back to the command line, and we're going to write, we're going to run that file. And so colon X will save and quit. And I'll jump back real quick because colon Q is quit. So those are your options. You have W for write, X for save, or write and quit, and Q for just quit. I tend to do X just to be safe all the time because it's, if it's better to save and be able to undo after that. Anyway, so now we've saved the file, and if I run it, you'll see that all that stuff has showed up and it's saved well. Saved well. Okay, sure. So pretty much that is a lot of what you need to know about Vim. If you can manage that much, if you can navigate with some competency and you can write files and stuff, you can, if you're in like a Linux box, SSHden or something like that, and you need to quickly change a file, you can do that. You can manage this kind of basic stuff. But there are some things, if you're running this as your full-time editor, that you should know. And then there's some things I'm going to talk about after, kind of some more advanced tech stuff, but then I'm going to talk about Vim configuration. I'll show you my configuration and some stuff that I like about it. So let's jump into a different file. And this is a Ruby file that I've written. It's a gem I'm working on. But in this instance, I'm going to show you just a couple other things. The first of which is with moving quickly. So obviously J goes down. J only goes down once, and K only goes up once. But what if we want to jump down faster than that? Well, the way to do that is to preface the action with a number. And what I mean by that is if I press 10 and then J, it'll do J 10 times. It'll go down 10 lines. That's really handy. If you're in a huge file, I mean, if not even huge, if you're in a 60, 70 line file and you want to go down 40 lines, it's really easy to do that. And I think that's one of those things that Vim is really, really great for. You'd be surprised when you stick to the keyboard how much faster you get, because while you can obviously click down with the mouse, 40 lines down, it's a lot faster just to do it all from the keyboard. And in the same way, it can obviously do like 5K, or I can do 5L, or I can do like 16L, and I can go, way across the line. So that is something I use a lot. And there are a couple keys, GG goes to the beginning of the file, but I always end up just doing the fast movements, adding a number to the movement, because I like that more. Some other stuff that it kind of in the same vein. I'm gonna go to like the middle of this file here. If you do capital A, it'll jump to the end of the line. So say in this instance, I want to write a comment, it'll jump to the end of the line and put me in insert mode. If I press I, it'll put me in the beginning of the line and then put me in insert mode. So that'll actually comment out the entire line. I don't want that. What I just did there is press U for undo. And then if I do Control R, it's fine. Okay. That's one of the undo functionality is something that I will show you that I fix in the Vim RC that I have. And the Vim RC, I should explain, is the configuration file for Vim. And that lives in your home directory. So for me, it's christian/.vimrc. And I'll put a link to my GitHub repo where I have that and a couple other configuration stuff set up, because I will show you in just a second. It really changes a lot of things. So let's do that. Right now I have Vim alias to start with no configuration, but I'm going to alias it back and then open the same file up again. And this is what my Vim normally looks like. You can see it has line numbers, syntax highlighting, and at the bottom, from left to right, the mode, which is really nice. This is something I'm surprised Vim doesn't come with by default. Press I, and this shows insert, and then the file name, and then over to the right side, the file type, or the language that is detected, which is Ruby, the file type, which is UTF-8, and then line information, so 16% down, the document or the file, line 5, character 5, 6, 7, etc. And you'll notice the line numbers have changed. These are relative line numbers. Some people don't like these. I'm a big fan of them. For instance, if I wanted to jump down to the line that says self equals expected, that's really easy. Using the thing that I showed you earlier, I can just do 8J and I'm there. It's awesome. I use that all the time. Some other stuff that is really handy, you can see that vertical line is a column indicator. So I think I have it set to 80 right now, just to kind of enforce short lines, which we do a lot in Ruby. That could be different for other things like Objective-C. I know that's kind of difficult to do. So you can obviously set that to what you want. So let's jump into my Vim RC. And yeah, we'll just keep it kind of split right now, because you don't need full screen for this. So this is the Vim RC, and I have a lot of configuration set up. I'm not going to go through everything because that is kind of a waste of time, but I will show you kind of some basic stuff. I'm using Pathogen. Pathogen is written by Tim Pope, and it is a really, really awesome plugin manager for Vim. It works really well, and I would say it's the de facto plugin manager for Vim. Another thing that I'm using is it's called Vim Update Bundles, and basically what it is, there's two kinds of package managers. There's two package managers for Vim that I know of that are really popular, and that's Pathogen and Vundle. And Vundle is pretty similar to, if you're familiar with Ruby, the Ruby bundler. And so you have this kind of syntax here inherited from Vundle, which is this bundle colon, and then this part here is just a GitHub link, so tpope/Vim Sensible in Vim, or in GitHub, sorry. And so what Vim Update Bundle does is it kind of acts as a bridge between the two. So for instance, on our team, At work, I use Vim Pathogen. I used to use Vundle, and the other guy I share Vim stuff with a lot uses Pathogen. So really, in this instance, we could switch back to just Pathogen and not use this Vim Update Bundle, but it comes in handy because you can, I'm going to quit out of this real quick, you can type Vim Update Bundles, and it will go through and it'll update all of your stuff for you. And so the normal way of doing this is that you would just do a git clone into your Vim directory, and that takes a lot of time, especially if you have a lot of plugins like I do. And honestly, like a lot of these I'm just kind of messing around with. I don't use a ton, but there are a couple great ones. So I'm going to show you a few of them, and I'm going to wrap the video up. And yeah, so let's take a look at some of them. The first is the status bar at the bottom. This is actually not the default Vim status bar as you saw earlier. It's something called Vim Airline. And I'll put a link to that in the description. And basically all I've done with Vim Airline is just install it, and it does this all for me. You can put in some custom themes, and you can see if you look really closely, like the arrow things are a little messed up, and that's because I actually just did some configuration without really checking. But it doesn't really bother me too much. But the default view that it gives you is really nice and is really helpful. Even just the way that the color changes when the mode stuff happens is really nice. I install it just for that. A couple other things. Right now I'm not in a Rails project, but Rails Vim, also written by T. Pope, is really phenomenal. And if you're a Rails developer, there's a good chance Rails has a big, like the Rails community has a big crush on Vim because it's really excellent. But the Rails Vim plugin is really, really fantastic. And I encourage you to go look at the README on the GitHub project, because there's still stuff I'll look at it, every couple weeks or, once a month, and I'll find something new that could have saved me, hours earlier on. And that's something that happens with Vim a lot. But I recommend that plugin. A couple other things. If you're a Git user, which you should be because Git is amazing. There's a couple other things. I don't have it set up right now because this isn't in a Git repo, but if you make changes to a file that's in Git, on the sidebar over here, it'll show like a diff kind of thing. It'll put like a tilde if it's a change or a plus if it's an addition. So that's really nice. And then the other thing is called Fugitive. And Fugitive is like a thin wrapper for Git inside of Vim, so you can do like git blame, git add, git commit from the Git command line. It probably is here. Yeah, you can see there's, that's the gutter thing. Okay, well, I'm not in the Git repo, so that's probably why it's not showing up, but that's another good one. Really, there's just a lot. And if you're using, for instance, I just started messing around with Jade, with the HTML, I guess, preprocessor kind of thing. And so there's like a Vim Jade plugin that I just dropped in. Really like today. I dropped it in today, and you can see down here, this is all you have to do. You just run Vim Update Bundles and boom, it appears. So that's really handy. I think it puts it almost in the same ease of use as like Package Manager for Sublime Text if you're using that. Because plugins are nice, and a lot of this stuff is you don't want to write this on your own. It's helpful to have someone do it for you. So the final one I'm going to show you is, I'm just going to run Vim by itself, and then I'm going to do period for the directory. Actually, I don't think I even need that. Yeah, okay. This is called Nerd Tree, and you've probably seen this. This is basically a sidebar kind of thing, similar to TextMate or Sublime Text. And so you can just do that, and then I can do oh, it's not working right now. I have some tmux settings I think that are overriding it. That's irrelevant. But yeah, you can navigate through the files over there on the side, and that's really handy. I'm not super in love with that, and I'm just kind of messing around with it. But I know a lot of people love that as kind of replacing Sublime Text and TextMate sidebar. But yeah, that's some of my plugin stuff. Why don't I open it up one more time? I'll just show you a couple other things. This stuff, syntax, indentation stuff, this is all kind of just boilerplate Vim RC stuff that you're going to see in a lot of people and a lot of people's config. I use 2-tab indentation, 2-space, I guess, indentation. A lot of people have that differently. If you're Python, you're 4 it's fine. Whatever you like. This one I like a lot. It basically sets a persistent undo. And so every file that you edit is going to have an undo file matching it in your vim/undo. You can change that, obviously. Some people have it in the same folder as the file. I don't know. It's really a personal preference, but it has up to 1,000 levels of undo. You can undo 1,000 times. It's really crazy. So you can go back to the very beginning of a file really easily. I changed my leader key, and leader is a thing that you use a lot for for plugins and stuff to run different actions. I changed it to comma. Just that's a preference in terms of reach. Find and replace is really great. And find and replace is launched by the / key next to shift. But if you do these two keys, it gives you a little bit better of a find and replace. I don't remember anymore what it changes, but it's pretty great. So let's just do like undo directory. You can see that it finds it. You press enter and it's there. Find and replace is really great in Vim. It's really fast. A lot of this other stuff is random things. I don't even remember what a lot of this does because I don't use a ton of it. I need to come through and clean this. But like something like this, leader, if you have two files, you're switching back and forth, and just do comma, comma, it'll switch back and forth between the files. That's really cool. Some other stuff like VV is the same as capital V, which highlights the line. That's really cool. Like this, I'm not going to use it right now, but if I do write like that, it will, you're going to experience this if you're using Vim, where you're going to be writing a file and then it's going to tell you right when you try and save it after all this time that it needs a sudo, and that sucks. So that helps that kind of thing. A lot of the rest of this is plugin stuff. I'm not going to go into that. What I will tell you is that I will link that in the description. I have a .files repo on GitHub that has all my Vim stuff, and that's where I would go. And I should probably do a better job of documenting this, but I can tell you, if you just want to copy this as your own vimrc, I think you'll have a pretty good time. I think it's configured pretty intelligently. And a lot of this is shared between people that I work with, and we have kind of come to turn, like we like how we have this set up. I think it makes Vim pretty fantastic. But yeah, so that's Vim. That is enough. I think that you could really get a lot done with Vim. I think for me, at least, that was all I needed to know, and I didn't even know all of that, especially the plugin stuff, before I switched to Vim full time. And like I said, if you're a Rails developer, Vim Rails is, I think, enough reason to switch on its own. And I'm sure if you're doing other stuff, like if you're a Python developer or a Django developer, there's probably something similar. But really, Vim is fantastic, and it comes with pretty much every Linux, Unix system, which is awesome. So you don't have to do any additional installation. It works from the command line. And really, especially if you're doing stuff like as a Rails developer, I am in the command line all the time. I'm running commands, checking server log, etc. And you're going to see a real huge advantage to staying in the command line if you're not doing that already. Enough that I think that is reason enough to change for a lot of people, is that you're not, if you're Mac, you're not command tabbing back and forth between Sublime and Terminal. It's really quick. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll link to my website in the description, and you can email me or get a hold of me on Twitter. I would love to answer any questions, and if I got anything wrong, I'd also love to know, because I still like learning Vim things, and I realize that a lot of this stuff, I have a habit of kind of coming up with my own terminology for things, and so I would love to talk about Vim. I love it enough that I like having discussions about it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it taught you something, and go forth and code. Thanks.